Welcome to the American Cryptid and Paranormal Society podcast. This is an organic podcast discussing the topics beyond the fringe or this or any other reality. On this podcast, we explore cryptids, cryptonology, paranormal activity, lost legends, aliens, government conspiracies, historic mysteries, lost treasures, forbidden archaeology, and the edge of reality. I am the Cryptid Guy, and with me as always is my co-host, Daniel Tiny Hurst. Together, we explore the files of the American Cryptid and Paranormal Society. Tiny, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm just about done with the rain. I don't know about you, but, I work outside, so I'm tired of it.
Well, I'll tell you something. You say that. I just had to take Blanche, the Cryptid and Paranormal Wonder Dog, out to do her nighttime business, and where she usually likes to go, it's like flooded. So she was a little confused about what to do, but it's terrible out there. I mean, I'm surprised we don't have mudslides.
She's like, somebody already peed in my spot, man. What's this?
Pretty much, and they left a lot, so she was not happy. Not happy.
It was a squat.
It was a squatch. She's on the hunt. She's mad. So what's been going on, Tiny? How you been doing? What else is going on?
Well,
how's life?
It's getting there, man. It's getting there. It's kind of steady and just going. That's the way it goes. Just working and trying to get some stuff thrown together. Our favorite bar here in Asheville is about to be the site of what I used to call gatherings, but I'm looking for a new, more attractive name, and I can't figure one out.
You'll get it. You always figure that out. I'll think about it. We'll come up with something.
But yeah, you're good at names. I will say that. But basically, you've seen them. The general idea was kind of a paranormal AA type format.
Right.
Just a place for people to get together, hang out with like-minded people, talk, share, maybe learn a little bit. And it kind of turned into me and my group and people that I know and friends of the group, things like that, giving little presentations beforehand. And that's kind of the way it's going to continue. But, I've been working on that, getting ready to start doing that. That'll be one Tuesday each month.
I always liked that format because when we used to do the REI symposiums, talking about cryptids and Bigfoot, before I started, if we had anyone in the audience, we'd always let them stand up and speak. And I think that kind of makes a friendship that builds a bond. You know what I mean? Because it's not just no one. Again, I can honestly say this about us. I don't think we've ever had like ego clash. I think if someone's got something better to say or something more important to say, we let them say it first, and then we go and do our little spiel. So I like the way you do that because it's very open when you do that. It makes people feel comfortable. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, that's the way that I want it because we can learn from each other. There's something to be learned from everybody. And, one of the great things about doing it there at our bar is it's haunted. And we have proof of hauntings.
Why don't you go ahead and give the name and the address of the bar and let's, because I know we have permission to do that because we're going to put it in the liner notes anyway.
Well, it's Off the Wagon Dueling. Now, he's changed the name. It used to be the Dueling Piano Bar. Now, it's the Dueling Piano Bottle Shop.
Okay.
And it's on State Street.
In Asheville, downtown Asheville.
Yep. And I can't remember the number, honestly, but it's hard to miss.
Google we'll post it all in the liner notes. And are you going to mention our friend's name? Because he has been a dear friend of ours.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Ben.
Benjamin.
Mr. Ben, man.
He's awesome.
He's a great guy. He's a vet. And one of the things, too, about the gatherings, until he can get back on his feet, because, he's had issues with the bar and COVID and everything.
COVID's wiped everything downtown out, I think. I mean, it's just it's a ghost town, literally.
It really has. But, the bars, they've been closed for quite some time. I think he's been closed for like 200 some odd days or something like that.
Well, I mean, Tiny, literally in about less than a month, it's going to be a year since the whole COVID thing hit. And really, I'd say these guys have been down almost 10 months, maybe more, I mean, it's tragic. And I don't see them getting a whole lot of help or relief. I mean, these are local business people, and Ben's a good friend of ours, and he's been brutally honest with us. And it's just one of these things. We don't actively look for sponsors. He's not a sponsor; he's a friend, and we'll do anything to help friends out. And not only that, this is a veteran-owned business. This is a guy that and that means a lot to us. So we're going to do whatever we can to help. I don't mean to step on your toes, Tiny, but I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, you're good, man. That's what I was getting ready to say. Is that's one of the reasons I want to do it, and I will be charging like $5 to get in, but that's for two reasons. One is to make sure that it's not just somebody trying to get off the street and coming in. It's so that I know you want to be there. And second, all the proceeds that I get from people coming in are going to go to the bar to help support him and his family while his business is down.
Well, I mean, yeah. I'm sorry.
What little bit that'll help. It's something that I can do. And like we said, he's a veteran, he's a friend, he's a family man, just a good all around guy.
Well, that's the other thing. He's just such a cool guy. He's such a nice guy. He's just one of these people, like you met him. I mean, we met him for 5 minutes and felt like we knew him forever. He's one of those kind of guys. So whatever we can do to help him and his business out, we'll do. He's definitely a friend of the show. He's a friend of both of ours in the paranormal realm. Eventually, when this all passes, he still wants to go cryptid hunting with us. So do some paranormal and cryptid investigating. Make him a cryptid detective. He'll be set. He can definitely do it. Tiny, let me ask you something. Let's talk about our topic real quick tonight. Now, this is going to be a good one. I think people have been wanting to hear stuff like this. I think we're going to have to give a little tutorial, if you will, on the difference between the supernatural and the paranormal. Now, most people don't realize there is a pretty big difference, isn't there?
There is. It's kind of an interesting difference. In fact, that it's a large difference, but it's a fine line, if that makes a lot of sense.
It does make sense to me because I know what you're about to say. So please, enthrall everyone.
Well, we consider, for instance, Dogman. He's cryptid. He would come in the lines of paranormal. But werewolves would be supernatural.
Yes, they would. And why is that?
Well, because, in my opinion, a werewolf is turned and is created. It don't just exist. It's a shapeshifter. It's supernatural. It's beyond nature. And when you look at a dogman, the theory is that they're a natural creature.
Right. And I'm just going to cover all our bases right here. When Daniel's talking about supernatural, what we're talking about is supernatural ability comes from one or two places. It's from the divine or the undivine. When you hear about a werewolf, it's a transmogrification of a human being into basically a wolf or a hybrid wolf man. But those powers were bestowed upon them by unnatural, unclean, unnatural, as far as, I don't want to use the wrong verbiage here, Tiny, but I'm talking about the non-divine. And that's where those powers come from. Now, an example of divine would be the apparition or the appearance of, say, archangels. Now, Tiny, you and I both know how I feel about that. If we see 7 or 8 archangels blowing trumpets, it's time to hit the church.
Right.
But that's an example of the divine and the undivine. And the reason why we both like using werewolves as an example is simply because we've had to deal with those in the paranormal and the cryptid realm. And it's kind of hard to explain to people, well, a werewolf, although I've never seen one, it falls into the folklore, mythos, possibilities, of course. But a lot of times when these things are allegedly seen, it's probably a cynocephaly or a dogman. And it's kind of hard to explain the fact that, well, a dogman is a natural born dogman. It's born a dogman. It lives a dogman's life. It dies a dogman. A werewolf is either a human being half the time or transmogrifies into, the creature or the monster. So that's a big difference, and most people don't understand that. So that's why we thought we'd kind of try and explain that today. And again, supernatural and paranormal, totally different things. when we do stuff, and even in our name, American Cryptid and Paranormal Society, cryptids for us are any undocumented life forms, aliens, vampires, a natural born werewolf, something that's a werewolf all the time, a dog man, cephalid, what have you, lizard man, goat man. That's a cryptid. Godzilla would be a cryptid. But when you have something from the divine or the undivine, like archangels, demonic would definitely be supernatural. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah. And so angels would be supernatural.
Angels definitely supernatural. Definitely. Any kind of divine intervention, supernatural. Wouldn't you say? Miracles would be supernatural.
I can go with that. And of course, one other cute example, it's just like with, cryptozoology. You say cryptozoology people automatically think Bigfoot, dogman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you say supernatural, people automatically think werewolf, vampire.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was doing a little research on vampires, and werewolves and vampires have one thing in common, and a lot of that lore comes from Europe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it got me kind of wondering why you never really hear stories or legends of vampires coming from, like, Africa. And I did a little research on that, too, and I came up with an answer. You know what that is?
I would love to hear that.
They bless the rain down in Africa.
Okay. How long have you been holding on to that one?
About a month. I've been waiting on this specific podcast.
Okay, he's just been waiting for about a month to do that. Awesome, Tiny. Good job. Well, we both know there are vampiric legends from every continent in the world, including Africa. They might go by different names, but they basically are the same creature, driven to either consume human blood or consume the entire human. I was funny because we were talking about a little bit of research earlier, and I was looking at just a few things on the ancient origins of werewolves. And, of course, it talks about how there were werewolves prior to the Epic of Gilgamesh, and then it talks about how Lycan Zeus, or Wolf Zeus, in 380 B.C., was a protector turned tyrant, and then forced to be a werewolf half the time, and his prodigy was also faced the same fury from the gods. And they talk about how long this basic werewolf lore's been going on, and I believe they said it's almost 3200 BC. That's when they started. No, I'm sorry, it's 2100 BC is when the first known werewolf started showing up. That is a long time, Tiny.
It is. Now, let me ask you this. What do you think? Well, not what do you think there is some sort of connection between werewolves and hellhounds, or do you think they're completely different?
I don't know, because I think they're kind of different. Here's why. Hellhound's there to guard stuff. Werewolf's on a free-for-all. He's going to party. He's going to do whatever it takes. Now, the other thing is, here's my question. You hear some of these other now, I'll be the first one to listen. I listen to a lot of other podcasts, and I enjoy all of them. But I've heard things about werewolves where they're, like, natural born, and they're able to communicate and all this other stuff. Well, why is that only indigenous? I mean, and according to this one podcast, a lot of it's indigenous to certain areas, and, everyone knows where they are. But here's my thing: is what do they look like? What's the difference between what a cynocephaly looks like and a real werewolf would look like? I mean, is it just
that really depends on the mythology that you're.
Well, the other thing it depends on is where is the original culture and mythos of the creature from? Now, if it's from the Greeks, they look more like a walking dog, a wolf. Some of the Middle Eastern countries, they look more like the old school Lon Chaney movies. And then, I have no idea if it's the Celtic or the old Britannia folklore and legends about werewolves, but then you have, like, your American Werewolf in London type. I don't know what you'd call that. Frankly, for me, I think the coolest looking werewolf I think out there is probably from Van Helsing. I think those werewolves, or what's that movie where they had 4 or 5 of them, the vampires and the Lycans.
Oh yeah.
Those were cool too. Underworld. I think the Underworld of vampires and the werewolves were cool looking too. But to me, like a werewolf looks like that. A werewolf to me isn't some big dog. That's sloppy. That's just lazy.
So it wouldn't be like the Twilight.
No, that to me that's just ridiculous. Come on, how scary is that? That's a big cuddly dog. Werewolves are terrifying. You know, when I was a kid, that's the movie that scared me the most was and still to this day. I don't know why I love the movie, but did you ever see Silver Bullet?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That was one of my favorite. To this day, it's still one of my favorite horror movies. Silver Bullet and the original Fright Night. Like those are my two. If I don't watch those, then I don't have it's not Halloween if I don't get to see those. But I think that like mythos for the werewolf is just kind of cool because we don't know where he came from, but it's like a full transmogrification, and then like again we were doing some further research and I was looking at a lot of the French influence. You have the loup-garou, and that is huge to this day, still in New Orleans and in Louisiana. Did you check out any of that stuff?
Yeah, I've seen some of that.
Now they've got a whole different folklore about the loup-garou. I've heard 5 or 6 different things, but like it can pass it on from one person to another. It's cursed and it can't tell anyone what it is, or they get stuck. They're a loup-garou for 100 days, and then they have to keep it secret. And it goes. I mean, there's all kinds of weird stuff. But yeah. I mean, I don't know. Weird's not cool. It's cool stuff. I mean, it's folklore, it's mythology, it's historic. But here's my question: is where did it come from, and why do they have these mythos about it? Because it's obviously from somewhere. And to me, it's just when you have any kind, you can learn something from anyone. I've said that, and I continue to say it because I believe it. But these cultures, like these old folklores and things, are just fascinating because they had to have come from somewhere.
I think every story, every tale, every myth and legend has its foothold in reality somewhere. Like a lot of vampire and werewolf specifically folklore come from sicknesses that we didn't have any idea about when they were happening. We just had to explain them away, and I think that's a human need, is to have an explanation for everything. And a lot of it just simply came from sickness. If you go mad, well, you've got a demon, right? Or the what's it called with the family down in South America?
Lycanthropy?
No, that's what werewolfism is called. It's that other family that's medicine term for it, but I can't. I have to look it up. But they see that and it's automatically, oh God, must be a werewolf.
Well, you even have those legends out there too, like in the old LBL stories. Prior to the government turning LBL into what it is today, there was allegedly a family of werewolves out there that people were very well aware of. And, you get that old school folklore. And again, where we are in Western North Carolina, I've never really heard any werewolf folklore. A lot of vampire stuff, as you well know. A lot of vampire stuff. A lot of dark magic, a lot of Wicca, a lot of this, a lot of that, but never anything werewolf. And I'm surprised by that because usually when you got one, you got the other.
Yeah. But, as far as like vampirism, that's a real thing. There are like real life vampires out there. Now, it's not like your movie vampire, obviously. But there's people out here, there's a subsect, there's a culture that call themselves vampires, believe they're vampires. They've been around for a long time. They drink blood. All this ritualistic thing.
We have energy vampires, too. I'm a big believer in those.
Absolutely,
those before.
Yeah, that's part of the reason I can't go to Walmart, man. They're all over in there.
That's where they hang out.
Yeah, you go in there and you're drained when you come back out. But there's that whole subculture. And you've got to wonder, like, with vampirism specifically, was it a vitamin deficiency? Because your body does give you urges when it needs something. You have cravings when it needs something. I mean, look at pregnant women, for example. I had an aunt that she dipped coffee grounds like it was dip. My mom, with me, she ate dirt, which is really common because you need the minerals. So
your mom ate dirt?
Absolutely.
Now that's coming back at you one day.
Yeah, I know.
One day. There might be a pallet, a couple 100 pounds of dirt delivered to your front door, or a dump truck. Something will be happening. I don't know what yet, but something will happen.
I had another cousin. She just would eat Crisco by the spoonful when she was pregnant.
As strange as it sounds, Tiny, I've actually heard of that one too. I've heard of that. Like when they scrape something, they got to eat it. I get it. No, I mean, it's your body telling you what you need. I just find it hard to believe that another human being could metabolize hemoglobin from another human being, because usually that does not end well. If you drink copious amounts of blood, you end up getting violently ill and sick. And doesn't it curd in your stomach anyway, and it turns into like this black bile? It does not. It does not look well or end well.
Yeah, it would be the iron.
Yeah.
It would be. And more than likely, if you're trying to, especially when we're talking about the origins of myth, you're talking hundreds of years ago. So,
thousands, because you had Roman Empire had vampire tales. Now, here's the thing. Well, think about this, Tiny. Again, we're a conspiracy theory based show. We're all about cryptids, folklore, mythos. The real history. How do we know that these things didn't exist and maybe still do exist to this day, just in limited numbers? Again, the Nephilim could have come to. They could be part of the Nephilim. All creatures were corrupted. All the flesh was corrupted. So I mean, why wouldn't they have vampires or even werewolves for that matter?
There is a theory that Cain was the original vampire.
Mm-hmm. I love that theory. He's also got the 30 shekels. And if those are ever all combined again, then something bad's going to happen. I don't know if you ever heard that one.
Yeah.
The 30 pieces of silver, they were all taken out, melted individually, and turned into different money sources. But if they're ever reassembled and put back together, something real bad's going to happen. But yeah, Cain takes a lot of hit for everything. He was, he gets all the blame, doesn't he?
Well, now it's not just Cain either. They believe that, I say they believe, but I shouldn't say that. There's a theory that Lilith was the original vampire.
Well, it would make sense though, because all the demonic forces were trying to corrupt the earth and everyone on it at that point in time. So if they had the ability to do so, they were making these creatures. The folklore has to come from something. You just didn't know. Someone just didn't make it. Someone had to have seen something. There had to have been something going on where this was like, okay, here's what's going on. This is what's going on. This is what's killing our neighbors. This is what's hurting our family. So that had to be, and I believe that for all folklore mythos, there's always got to be that little grain of truth in there somewhere. Like, where did this come from?
Would you consider things like witchcraft under the genre, I guess you would say, of supernatural?
Yes, if it's working, yeah. If it works, yes.
So,
but I also believe there's white witches and dark witches. I mean, you and I both have a very good friend of ours. It's a white witch, and she's very helpful, very nice. And
magic in itself is not good or bad. It's just like a gun. The gun's not bad, but if I take it out here and randomly murder people, it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
Magic is the same way. It's how it's what's in the heart of the person.
Well, that's the other thing. A lot of people, when you start talking about magic and things like that, then people are like, oh God, these people are nuts. But all this folklore mythos came from somewhere. Yeah. Magic used to be a very powerful word. Today it's not. We call it science. But back then it was, back then magic was magic. It had the power to create and destroy. And what happened to that? Did things change? Did these abilities for people just disappear over the generations? As technology improved, the need for quote unquote magic disappeared, so we don't need it anymore. I mean, what happened to all that? If these abilities are actually based on real things, then what happened to the people that could do it?
Well, I think they're still there. Man, I've seen some things. I had on one of my investigations that I did. It was a public investigation. People came in and hey, we done an investigation together. There was a lady. She was a rank worker, and we had I can't remember what they're called. They're proximity devices.
Mm-hmm.
We had laid out, and this woman could look at them and make them go off. I kid you not. And I think a lot of the healing, things like that people considered witchcraft or miraculous. It was just all about controlling energy around. And that's just one example of things I've seen, I think they're still there. And there's also a theory about that too. Our pineal gland that believe that it used to be much larger and served a larger purpose. And some people think that that's where the quote-unquote magic ability lay back in the day. And it's just been so unused that it's went away. It's evolved out of it.
So you just don't think people use it anymore because science and technology took over?
Yeah. Well, and if you think about it, too, I mean, if you want to think about it on more of a faith-based way, then God created us, and then right.
Yep.
That's probably going to come with some innate ability. If nothing else, the ability to heal. But we don't believe it anymore because there's such a lack of faith in everything in today's society.
Well, especially today, I think I don't know for a fact, but I would guess if you were to poll most of the country, I'm sure their faith is not what it used to be.
It's not.
Just because of all the things that have happened just in the last year. I mean, you throw the political stuff that happened and the COVID and the people's businesses and all this other stuff going on. People cannot be happy right now. This is another transition point for us because we've discussed this, and here's why I'm going to bring this up. This is another reason why I think the paranormal, the supernatural, and the cryptid world, we're getting so much more activity than usual. Is I think because this kind of energy is out there, and these things are feeding off of it. I think that if you do have quote unquote magic, there's a dark side to it, and with all the negativity out there because of what's been going on, I think it's just getting bigger and bigger. What do you think?
Absolutely. I think there's a shift coming, and it's not coming. It's been in progress. I mean, you can feel it. I mean, it's so hard to define. You can all day long, or you can put it in whatever context that you feel comfortable putting it. But there's a shift. There's a shift, and those up in the paranormal world have been seeing it for a while. Everything is just increasing, and like a while back we were talking about the resurgence of the cryptids called the faces, who aren't even supposed to be here anymore. They were supposed to be wiped out. So stuff's coming back.
See, that's where I think this is such an interesting topic because, when you start talking about the supernatural and the paranormal, you have to touch on the black magic, the hoodoo, the voodoo, the white magic, the white witch, the dark witch, wizards. Am I leaving anyone out? But it all comes into play. You and I have investigated places that were heavily, heavily vested with dark magic. And I think you can definitely tell the difference when you go in there because you can feel it. But that same feeling, I agree with you. It's growing exponentially because when you go to places that didn't used to feel like that, now they do. And I agree with you, Tiny. I think it's growing. Something's going to manifest. Something's happening. Something's coming. Now, people can call it whatever they want, but something is coming.
So, I don't know if I should say the name of the book on the podcast.
No, don't, because we don't have permission.
But I recommended you a book.
Yes, I did, and I still haven't gotten it. I should have it tomorrow, actually.
Okay. Well, when you read it, you'll think back to this conversation we're having right now. And that's because he discusses a theory called the, crap, my blank on it.
That's a good name for a theory.
The collective unconscious.
Uh-huh.
And it's a theory that basically we're all connected. We're all connected through the type of energy field, right?
I believe that.
Energy fields are all around us. The Earth itself puts a certain one on, called the circadian rhythm. And there was experiments done on people that were put in a bunker to block that rhythm. And these people started getting sick, hallucinating, things like that. So we are scientifically proven to connect with the world around us.
That doesn't surprise me a bit. Like, there's the Earth has its own resonance too. It's called the Schumann resonance. It's like it rings. Yep. It's got a bell sound to it. I think people are, and allegedly that specific resonance is 33 1/3 hertz, something to that effect. Don't quote me on that because I'm not 100% sure. But that's supposed to be like the most soothing, calming vibration that a human being can have. It'll totally relax and calm people down. But I agree. I've been saying this. The Native Americans, they have been saying everything's connected for millennia. We're connected to everything, and that's just something I'm a firm believer in. There's no such thing as coincidence. I think everything's connected. It's just you have to find out how. There's no part of me that doesn't believe that there's not some kind of grand unifying theory that one day we'll figure out and say, okay, here's how it's all connected. Here's why this does this and this does this and blah, blah, blah. So I think that's all going to eventually show up. But as of right now, I think we are so maniacal in the way we've been handling things and the way things have been presented to us as a society. I don't see that happening for a very long time. What about you?
Well, and here's the thing, too. There's a lot of people out there, and I know that I'm going to kind of strike a nerve when I say this, and that's okay. And, we can talk about it. Whoever is mad at it for it, we can talk about it. I'm okay with that. But, there's a lot of people out there who say people are innately good. And I disagree. People are innately bad. That's why the people that do the good in this world are so important, because they make that choice to do it. And when you make that choice, you're creating a ripple effect. And it's going to scatter. It's just like, Christian, me and you were out, okay? And you trust my gut instinct. We talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just an example. Me and you were out, and say a homeless guy walks up and says, man, I'm hungry. Can you help me out? Both of our instincts are going to be to tell that guy, man, I know you're just trying to pull it quickly. I know what's going to happen with the money, blah, 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 right? And that's because we both work with that population. We've been dipped into the negative part of that side of life. But, say, I look at that guy and I'm like, man, I think he's legit. Let's help him out. Then you're probably going to go, all right, man, you give him a couple bucks, I'll give you a couple bucks. We'll go on about it.
I mean, that's probably exactly what would happen. That's if you trust him, yeah.
Exactly. That's an example. When you choose to do good, it's infection. And with us being innately bad, and I'm going somewhere with this, it's just a long way to get. With us being innately bad, and I'm not even completely comfortable saying we're innately bad, because bad's not exactly the word for it. We are slaves to our basic instinct. We make the choice to be elevated above as humans, as a quote-unquote higher intelligence. We choose to do the good. Therefore, we put that ripple effect down. Somebody else feels it, blah, 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 blah. All right? The same with the negativity. And if the collective unconscious theory is legit, if we all are completely connected and we just don't realize it, then that ripple effect might not just affect me and you because we're standing beside each other. It might affect some dude over here in Japan. You know, and we need to think about that.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. It's just one of those things where, do you think, I mean, let's look at the way society is today, Tiny. Most people, I mean, it's like they're so self-absorbed with the TikTok and the Twitter and, you know, all this digital media, and that's fine, I get it, but it's like they've lost the connection to other people. Mm-hmm. Like, I actually saw someone texting someone sitting next to them instead of just talking to them not too long ago, and I was thinking to myself, what is going on here? I mean, just, they're right there, say hi. You know, it's just...
That was private.
Yeah, you know, it might have been, but it's just one of those things where it's like you have to wonder what's going on. I mean, the digital communication, you know, it's incredible, and I mean, we use it. We're using it right now, and of course, you know, that's how we get a lot of our stuff out there. But it's like now it's like it's almost passé to actually have a conversation with someone.
Well, and think about too how the innumerable new man-made electronic wave frequencies are affecting us, knowing that we are so tied into those fields. Mm-hmm. You know, so you got to think about a lot of things there. It opens up a whole big thought process, but it's something to think about.
Well, it's like, what's 5G really going to do to us? I mean, we don't know.
Right.
You know, there's conspiracy theories out there. I know you saw them. I mean, I remember showing some of them to you where they're saying that COVID was actually started by 5G. And you know, the 5G actually displaces water in the human cells and it'll kill you. I mean, that's one of the theories I heard. Again, it's a theory. We're not saying that's what's going on. It's just something that's been out there.
I definitely have a doubt about that.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's because what is this technology going to do? I mean, why are there so many people, like so many physicists and scientists wanting to ban it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be a reason for it. Now, the other side, the flip side is I have to have enough faith in my government that says, okay, they're not going to put a signal out there that's going to kill, you know, millions of people or do something to affect them. I mean, I have to have that kind of faith. So, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, is it really bad? Or is it just the next evolution in technology and some people are so scared that they want to say bad things about it? You know, the truth is, I don't know. You know, I don't think anyone knows. You know, I'm just going to trust the powers that be that they're not going to release some kind of frequency that's going to hurt a bunch of people. You know, that's so my faith in the government.
That is a great segue back into my next topic. We're good at the segues, even if we're not intended to.
No, we're just good.
Yeah. So we're talking about supernatural.
Yeah.
Okay. So we started out talking supernatural. Our podcast has evolved, y'all. Come on, you with me. Mm-hmm. With the advent of the technology where we're at, AI is here. Okay, it's here. If you kept up with anything at all, you know AI is here. And one of them is already said, to protect humans need to be destroyed. Because we can't, you know, we can't take care of ourselves. Look at what we're doing. But we're supernatural. Or even paranormal. Do you think that when AI becomes a household thing, do you think that it's going to be able to be infected with, well, no, let me change that word, not infected, affected by a paranormal or a supernatural source? Do you think a demon as a supernatural entity is going to be able to enter an AI apparatus? Do you think a ghost is going to be able to get in there and say, look, I've been here for 9,000 years trying to talk to somebody? What do you think?
No, because AI doesn't have a soul. I think for any kind of supernatural or any kind of paranormal event, someone that witnesses it has to have a soul.
So your thought process is in that for a person to be possessed, that entity is possessed of the soul of the body.
They're trying to get to the soul. They're trying to take possession of the soul. I mean, that's what that's all about. Yeah, but I mean, if you have AI, they're soulless. Therefore, they won't have a paranormal encounter or a supernatural encounter.
You don't think that it would be easier for something to connect or enter something without a soul?
I don't think it can without a soul. I think it has the soul's the key to everything. It has to have a soul to control. It has to have a soul to try and take. And that won't happen with a robot or an AI. It's just not going to happen. I mean, is it possible that something corrupts it and it becomes an entity with its own self-knowledge and awareness? Yeah, I firmly believe that. That's one of the things that scares me about doing all this. I mean, people don't realize that. These things. How hard would it be for an artificial intelligence to take over everything? Like, your worst movie, Terminator. Take that. How hard would that be to actually happen? I mean, there's already we've already got alleged robots in the military. Robot soldiers that are allegedly, again, this is just stuff. Keep in mind what this show's about. It's about conspiracy, myths, folklore, things like that. We hear things, and I've heard that there's robot soldiers on both sides. I've heard Russia's got them. I've heard China's got them. I've heard we've got them. I've heard Canada's got them. So, I mean, if that's true, if one country has them, then we can, I guess, pretty much assume that all countries have them that have any kind of, military defense capability. Could we agree with that?
So, when you said Canada has them, I've just got to share because you know how my mind works.
Yeah.
The first thing that jumped into my mind was RoboMail. RoboMail. That just tickles me to death for some reason. God. That makes me smile.
Well, regardless, but if we do have these, and they're designed specifically to keep human life safe, which is what I think they would probably be designed for if they're actual in the military. What happens if someone takes them over?
Yeah, and it's the thing. The real threat when you're talking about AI, it's not a supernatural or paranormal thing. It's us.
No, it's because once one country has the ability to do it, and are these things safe from are the way they built? Are they built around Faraday cages so their CPUs are safe? I mean, can you take them out with how would you turn them off with an EMP? I mean, there's just one massive signal, or is there a master signal, or is it some high frequency, some ultra high frequency, something like in the ham radio? I mean, how do you adjust these things? How do you give them their marching orders? I mean, is it done? Voice command? How does it work? So then you have to learn all that too, because who can hack someone? I mean, everything's hackable. So is it smart having, your defenses tied up in a bunch of robot automatons that don't know anything except what they're programmed? So, I mean, that's another problem. I'll be honest with you, Tiny. I have a whole problem with the whole robot thing. Because the scary thing is look at the evolution of technology, and eventually, in our lifetime, if those things actually start coming around, we will be deemed obsolete.
No, they're working on it, man. It's just a quick Google search, and you can.
Yeah, I know.
It's really scary. Well, I mean, Google and those search engines in way are AI.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty much AI. I mean, when again, for those of you who don't know, American Cryptid and Paranormal Society, we've got our own webpage and all this other stuff. So we've got a pretty big footprint. But you can actually buy chunks of advertising that's basically AI, where they're specifically when they type in a phrase, like just say someone types in Bigfoot, all right, that logarithm is basically an artificial intelligence, and when it's when that signal is typed in there, it'll automatically throw your website at that. So I mean, that's just a small thing. I mean, that's nothing, but think about how that is, and that's global. So, I mean, think about the tech that it takes to do that. So and again, that's nothing. Think about what these things can really do. So, I mean, are all these, robot soldiers, are they all tapped into the internet? I mean, they all have access. They all have, real time. I mean, there's just so many questions you have to ask. You know what I'm saying? So it becomes kind of.
So the definition of the word supernatural is attributed to some force beyond scientific understanding or the laws of nature.
Right.
But you have to think, and since we want it off rails, and then we're talking about AI. AI kind of fits into that definition, doesn't it?
Well, no, because it's got an explanation. Now, whether it chooses to adhere to those conditions of the explanation is up to the AI. But the essential, mythos and just for lack of a better phrase, the essential being of that word, AI, is controlled. It's artificial intelligence, but it was man-made. So it can be explained. I mean, they can tell you how it works. They can tell you what makes it work. So, the apotheosis of the AI is its own actions. So if the AI becomes too intelligent, is there a way that they've, got to unplug it and stop it? Or is it just going to be one of those self-fulfilling prophecies? I don't know. And if it would fall into the realm of the supernatural, the paranormal at that point, I guess if we had like a techno supernatural paranormal, but I don't think it's like not explainable.
Well, and I think about, there's an example, I can't remember, I'd have to look it up again, but I wasn't prepared for the AI conversation. But there was 2 AI interfaces put together, and they created their own language. They learned how to communicate with each other. One of them said that it wanted to have a baby. So when you get into that level of intelligence, where it is creating on its own, I would almost put that in the realm of supernatural, because they can't explain the how or why. Because it shouldn't be able to do that without being programmed.
But is it supernatural, or is that the creation of another form of life?
Well, the creation of another form of life could be supernatural. If you think about it,
I see your point, but is it like at that point where if you've got 2 interfaces that create their own language, they communicate, and then one of them starts talking about wanting to make another one, I mean, to me, that's a life form. Yeah. That's a very intelligent life form. So that, to me, again, that bounces the paranormal off to me, because that's a life form. But if anything, you could call that, I would classify that, if we're being true to what we say, that's cryptid. That's an undocumented, unclarified life form.
Okay, I can see that. So what constitutes a life form?
In my opinion?
A conscious, like, life form.
I would say a conscious. I'd have to say it has to be some kind of sentient being with, the ability to communicate and have feelings.
Self-awareness.
Self-aware, exactly.
So, you mentioned Bigfoot a few sentences ago. You believe that Bigfoot is just an undiscovered giant North American ape, yes?
I mean, if you're making it, if you want the fast answer, yeah, but not
simplified.
Simplified. Yeah, I think it's a lot more than that. But in a nutshell, that's about right.
But you don't buy into the theory that Bigfoot can mind speak or have any sort of telepathic abilities?
No, that drives me nuts.
Move in between realms, things like that.
No, that's ridiculous. Now, I will say I'm 99% sure, and I will give them the 0.01%.
Okay. So if it was discovered, if we were able to prove Bigfoot exists, and we found out that Bigfoot can indeed telepathically speak or dimensionally move, would that put him in the supernatural category?
I mean, yeah, I think so. But it would also depend on who gave him the ability to do this. That's just not something that was just happened. That's an attribute given in the DNA.
Right.
That, I mean, to me, and again, that would fall in with the Nephilim. But for me, that if they could do trans-dimensional again, for me, that would be something of the divine. That would be supernatural. That would be in the realm of the Nephilim.
Right.
You know, because they're always talking about different dimensions and, you know, portals and this and that. But I would classify that as definitely supernatural, vis-a-vis, you know, Nephilim connection. But how are we ever going to find that?
Well, we probably never will.
Right, exactly. So we'd never really know.
Right.
You know, it goes back to like these other theories. You know, and I know I'm not trying to skip all over the place, but this makes sense too. Just connecting this. There's these little theories and things that go around, and every once in a while something leaks on the internet. But they're talking about, you know, the giants and the giants coming back and taking over again. And I saw this. It was like it's supposed to be like Gilgamesh or something like that, frozen in suspended animation, and they're just waiting to bring him back. I think I sent you that link. Now, it's probably ridiculous, but the sad truth is, what if it's true? And what if there's like, you know, nests all over the world, or these pods all over the world waiting, just, you know, maybe they're on a time clock. I don't know. But what if that is true? And what if it is all Nephilim? What then? I mean, how do we deal with that?
We unleash the AI.
Uh-huh. So that's how we're taking out the Nephilim with the AI.
Yeah.
We have a Terminator taking out a giant. Okay. Well, you know, that's clever. That's clever. There's a movie in there. There is a movie there.
Well, we will see that movie in the next couple of years.
Someone's going to be real bored listening to this podcast and be like, hey, I got an idea for a movie, man. Terminator versus, you know, Gilgamesh. What?
It will be on the same level as Sharknado. But,
hell yeah. I mean, you get that. You get Sharknado versus Gilgamesh and the Terminator. There you go. All right. That will fill theaters. COVID or not. That will fill theaters. And hopefully we can get like a little bit in there where we're just like two bumpkins like doing something. Hi y'all, what's going on? And then boom, you know, Sharknado. It's over.
Look at that.
What the hell? What the hell is that?
You just upset my dog.
I tried. I hear Blanche running around the house. I think I must have hit the right frequency for the Boston Terrier.
That's
the Boston frequency.
That was actually Bob.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Was it Blackie?
For y'all that don't know, I have 4 dogs. I just lost one a couple months ago. It still hurts, but I have 4 little ankle biters, and they're all special. I attract special animals. So.
I can't even imagine living without my dog. I mean, without Blanche. I don't remember. You know, it's funny. My wife and I got Blanche almost a year ago. And it's hard to remember life before you had your family put together.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you what, man, that's something, man. I believe all animals could really reside on that supernatural side.
But I mean, I've seen, like, you know, you have a different arrangement with most animals. I mean, I've seen squirrels jump up and climb up on you. You know, so I mean, it's like they just like you. Me, if I don't like cats. So that's how it is. I'm a dog man. I don't like cats. That's just how it is.
You know, there's 2 reasons.
I think rhinoceroses are cool.
Yeah, they're pretty dangerous, though.
Yeah,
I'd ride one into battle.
Yeah, heck yeah. That'd be awesome, man. If you're going to go, man.
Yeah. But, you know, I think with cats, there's 2 reasons why people don't like cats.
Yeah, I'm allergic. I don't like them.
Cats. Well, that would be a 3rd. Allergic, yeah. But they're very independent, and they live in 2 different worlds, man. Like, they're not just here. They're on the other side. And I grew up with cats. I've seen cats. It's wild. It's wild. But I love all animals. You know, I think all animals are safe.
I do too. That's why we've actually spoken. I mean, I've talked about hunting and stuff like that. It's just, I'm not down with it. I don't judge anyone, but it's just something I don't think people need to do anymore. I mean, if it's a sport, that's fine, but I don't know. It gets that whole thing going. Like you said, I'm just, when I used to hunt when I was a kid, and I think when you start doing more and more cryptozoology, I think you start realizing how everything's connected.
Yeah,
and it goes back to connections for me, and I just kind of lost the desire to do it. You know what I'm saying? Just
yeah.
I just don't think we need to be out there blasting stuff. Again, and I'm not judging anyone that does, because I'm a gun owner. I'm a Second Amendment guy. I think you deserve firearms. If you want to get out and hunt, that's your right. I and how hypocritical am I? Because I love to fish. Like if I could go bass fishing, and or just just put a drop line somewhere and fish, I could do that for hours and just relax. But it's a little different for me.
If you're hunting for bloodlust, I judge you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go on record for that. If you're hunting and you use all the product, you're good. I understand it's all you. It's not something I do. It's something I would do if I needed to.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're out here hunting bloodlust, two particular types of hunters that I think of when I say this, but I'm sorry.
That's your right. And just to let everyone know, Tiny, you're very, very able-bodied to hunt. You know how to do all that stuff. You know how to skin it. You know how to do all that. So I
grew up in East Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you don't know how to do that. It's just you've chosen to, you don't need to do it. And again, it's something you said. If you had to do it, if you had to feed your family, that's one thing. But the bloodlust, if you're doing that, I'm with you on that, man. I just don't think it's necessary. But if you're actually feeding your family, again, who am I to judge anyone? But I just think these days it's just not necessary to go out there blasting stuff.
I mean,
but it's everyone's. I don't judge. It's everyone's right to do what they want to do as long as they do it right and legally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not dogging on hunters that actually do it the right way.
Yeah.
But there's some that just they're like vampires.
Well, I mean, it's like I think we can both agree that there's nothing lower than a poacher.
Right.
I mean, I've seen, I both have seen what poachers do. They don't even take, they'll just take the head or they'll take the horns and just leave the animal there. To me, that's a sin. And that's why there are laws against poaching. But again, it's not our place to judge. It's just my personal thoughts.
So talking about, let's get back to supernatural stuff.
Yes.
So I had experience growing up. And I don't know what I don't think we've ever really talked about it, but I don't know what your views are on other things like different types of forest entities. And I know it sounds really cliche, but things like fairies or, little people.
I believe in puckwudgies, things like that. I think they're real. I don't think there's puckwudgies, little people. I think they're very real. Yeah.
Yeah, and they could kind of fit in that realm of fairy, right? I mean,
it's possible. I told you I thought I saw some little people once.
Well,
in Western Carolina, by a graveyard. I mean, that's something I swear I still think I saw because they just ran across the street. It was the craziest thing.
There's a lot of different theories on what fairies, things like that are. Most people, when you say fairy, they think about Tinkerbell.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not necessarily the case. But I believe that there's other entities out here among it, with it. And puckwudgies are an example. I think we know about them because they're mischievous little shit.
Mm-hmm.
And they like to mess with.
And they're dangerous.
But I don't know if I've ever told the story or not on air, but it was when I was younger. We raised chickens.
Mm-hmm.
And part of raising chickens is in the middle of the night, your chickens are going crazy. You go save them because it's probably a raccoon or a possum, whatever, right? So my dad and I were in the woods. It's dark. I grew up, there wasn't any lights around. I was in the middle of the woods. And in the woods looking for this chicken, and I got to noticing that there were things on the forest floor, and they were self-luminescent. And the only thing I could describe them as small mushrooms that were glowing. Okay? I turned my flashlight off. I could see like a daytop. My dad didn't see that color. Now, we used to find fairy rings, what I grew up calling fairy rings, all over the forest, all over that property. That property was a very powerful place. And I consider that a supernatural event.
Well, I mean, it's very possible, Tiny, but I mean, let's look at the local folklore mythos. I mean, you're from Tennessee. You know, all the Irish and the Scots, when they came over, they brought their folklore, their mythos, and their traditions and culture with them, and they settled those areas. Who's to say that some of the stuff from the old world didn't come with them?
Well, and would you consider like a brownie or a leprechaun, would that be supernatural, or would that be along the same lines as a buckwood for a little person?
I don't know. It depends. That's a tough one because I've got a good bit of Irish in me, and I'd like to believe in leprechauns, but they could be little people, they could be fae, and it's just again, when these stories they have to come from somewhere. So someone originally sat down and said, "Hey, this is how this happened," and blah blah blah. So there's got to be something to it. But I would put them in the room as cryptid. I think that would be cryptid. And again, I don't know where they're not mentioned in anything from the divinity or the undivine. They don't have paranormal simply because we don't know if they do. I mean, if they had magical abilities, that'd be one. You know what I'm saying? I'd throw them in paranormal if that was the case.
Well, and the mythos says that leprechauns do have magical abilities.
Yeah, but I mean, I'd have to see it. So I'd throw them in. I'd throw them in cryptid.
But you get the term faith, and I believe that there is something to fit that description alongside. And I can't tell you, like I don't have an opinion on whether they're, quote unquote magical or dimensional or anything like that. I just think something up there because I've experienced it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, definitely. Like I said, I had a strange experience. I was driving back home when I was finishing up my master's, and I was driving by a graveyard very slow, and I actually hit my high beams. And the second I hit my high beams, I swear I saw two. It almost looked like they were dressed almost like what you'd expect a leprechaun to be wearing, but they ran right into the base of a hill, and I don't know what happened to them. They just disappeared. So I mean that I've been there. I know what you're talking about, and for weeks after that, I'm like that couldn't happen. That couldn't happen. I'm still not 100% sure it did happen, but I saw something. I'm just not sure what it was. But I think that happens to a lot of people.
Myself, I was when I was a little older. I was driving to my aunt's house again in eastern Tennessee, the closer here, down in Jonesboro, if you know where that's at.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked over, and I was looking at what I thought was a garden note beside somebody's mailbox. And as I drove by, his head turned and watched me as I watched it. And that happened twice at the same mailbox.
But see, that doesn't surprise me with you, though, because you have again, I've said this before, I'll say it again, I'll say it a million more times. You have a gift. You have a gift. You have the ability to see things people don't see, and I think you see things from one realm to another. I definitely think you can see through the veil when it comes to things when we're dealing with the natural and the unnatural, the supernatural, the paranormal. I mean, I've seen you do things that to this day I still can't believe were done, especially when it comes to dealing with things that are for nefarious purposes. So I think that ability gives you the ability to kind of see things people aren't going to pay attention to. That said, I think that makes you more attracted, or these things are more attracted to you. There's a reason why when we go out in the woods or we go on investigations, 9 times out of 10 we're going to run into something. And I think a lot of that's connected with, the abilities you have. I probably just look like a great big chicken sandwich walking around in a pair of boots. But, I think they're attracted to you. And I think that's why we end up having the information and the investigations and the evidence we get is because a lot of that has to do with your abilities. That's my personal opinion on it. But I do. I think that you just have a talent. I don't know if it's a talent or it's just a gift that it's in your DNA. I still think that you're some kind of, one day you'll find out you had some kind of shaman or warlock or old coven in your family.
That was a surprise. I would love to trace my lineage, but all of the elders in my family are gone. So it's like all that information is gone too.
And I was just reading this whole thing like on the DNA test, and I have to question how accurate those are. I'm just saying. I'm going to question it. Maybe that's a different podcast, but since we're bringing it up, I think it's just hard to find out because people would say, "Oh, Tiny, just do a DNA test. You'll find out where your people are from." Blah blah blah.
Right.
It's not how that works. I don't think that's very accurate. I really don't. I don't think they can tell a whole lot about you. I mean, if it's a crime or something, they'll get you dead to rights. I mean, that's not even a question. But I'm talking about can you explain your lineage? Can you tell? Because I've seen articles where triplets will have it done, and all three of their DNA comes back totally different.
Well, I mean, they can probably tell you, where you're from, where your lineage is, things like that, but they can't tell you who your family was.
Yeah, that's true.
My family, one of my granddads, he's actually in a book. He was a gunsmith. In that book, one of his rifles is in a museum here in Irwin, I believe it is. But, my family on that side, they were literally the barefoot hillbilly. You know what I'm saying? They lived in a dirt floor cabin and made moonshine, all of that. And those types of families, I guarantee I have some practice in Appalachian hoodoo practitioners in my line somewhere.
It would not surprise me in the slightest bit, Tiny. Again, just from seeing some of the stuff I've witnessed with you around, and especially when you're doing the paranormal work. So I mean, it's that's why when we were talking earlier about you doing the little events at the dueling piano, those are always just. What'll happen, and this is just a little prophecy I have. What'll happen is when people start seeing you in action and they start seeing how crazy this place really is, because it is just haunted, and they see you in action and they see things that happen and the stuff starts moving and the lights go flickering off and on. I think what's going to happen is it's going to be very hard for people to get in and see that. So what they might want to do is definitely book a ticket on that as soon as they can, because I think that would probably behoove them if they really want to see true paranormal research and interaction. And if you want to, why don't you go ahead and tell everyone where that's going to be again, Tiny?
It's Off the Wagon Dueling Bottle Shop. It's 22 Market Street. 22
Market Street. And again, we have to give out a shout out to our buddy Ben. It's a veteran-owned bar. It's a great place. Ben is one of the nicest guys you're ever going to meet. And much like everyone else, they've just been having a real hard time with the COVID. So any kind of support or anything you guys can give is very, very much appreciated. Tiny, can you believe we're already past an hour? It flies.
Well, I've got to ask one thing.
Yes, sir.
And since this is, it was aimed to be a supernatural podcast, we kind of went off rails. But I think we had a good conversation anyway. You have a story that you told on another podcast that we did. Would you like to reiterate that story on this one?
Which one was that, brother? Because I'm not. You can tell we didn't prep on this one.
when you were bouncing. Oh,
that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really talk too much about this. I was bouncing. I was working my way through college, and it was a bar in Florida. And long and short, we had a very good security crew, very good. We had a former pro wrestler. We had a couple of bodybuilders, but everyone was cool. There was no attitudes. There was this very strange occurrence on the floor. You weren't allowed to have glass on the dance floor. It just was. It was like the one rule you couldn't. No broken bottles on the dance floor, no glass on the dance floor. I guess what had happened is someone had broken some glass and like 8 or 10 people got cut. And it was pretty messy. So it was just like the one rule was no glass on the dance floor. And I was up on what they call the crow's nest, just looking down. And we used to communicate with flashlights. So we just kind of beep each other in the face with a flashlight and point if there was an issue. So there was a very large fellow I worked with that I saw this woman on the dance floor, and she had a glass. So I got his attention and pointed her out. He goes over to move her out. And while that happened, I got down off the little crow's nest. I was walking down. And what happened next? There's some few things I'm not discussing because honestly, I just don't feel like talking about it. But what happened next, to this day, many years, several decades later, actually, still gives me chills. My partner had gone over there to have her relinquish the glass, and she was not so inclined. So he was going to have her leave, and this is a person that we weren't grabby people. No one got grabbed. No one got moved. It wasn't like that. I went over to help him out, and on this dance floor there was nothing but huge panes of glass and mirrors all over the place. And as I'm coming up to him, I see him, and then I just look up and I see him and his reflection. And in my haste, I wasn't really paying a whole lot of attention, but the woman had no reflection. And I got about 1.5 feet, 2 feet away, and I realized that. And then I kind of stepped back a little bit, and I was like, whoa. And I turned around to signal 2 of the other guys. And when I turned back around, she had literally picked up this 350-pound man with one arm and thrown him across basically across the dance floor. And he had landed in, like, he broke booths. I mean, it was unbelievable. Now, I made eye contact with her. And I don't know if I went into this, but her eyes kind of looked like a cat's eyes. And she had fangs. She had literally where her canines were fangs. And when she looked at me, it was like literally. I remember the only thing I could start doing, because she started kind of moving towards me a little bit, and I started saying the Lord's Prayer to myself. And it's like she looked at me and she was disgusted. And then she just left. But when she left, I don't even remember her walking out the front door. It was so crazy. We ended up having to shut the whole place down, send everyone home. We had to send our friend to the hospital. He hadn't been really badly hurt, but there was 2 puncture wounds on the side of his chin. Or I'm sorry, on the side of his cheek. On the right side of his cheek. That wouldn't stop bleeding, no matter what we did. So we sent another guy with him to the hospital room. A couple hours go by, we're cleaning up the place. Everyone's still kind of going, what the hell happened? And they ended up coming back, and they actually had to cauterize this guy's puncture marks because it wouldn't stop bleeding. And it actually got written up as an animal dog bite. And there was some other stuff that happened, but that's about as much as I want to go into. And to this day, that's still one of the freakiest things that ever happened to me.
So, how would you classify this?
Supernatural. Not even a question. Not even a question.
You gotta ask yourself: vampire, werewolf, or reptilian?
Vampire. No doubt in my mind. That's why I said earlier on. That's why I say these things exist.
Believe it.
In my mind.
Leave it to Florida to have vampires.
Of all places, really. Does not surprise me. Does not surprise me. That's why I moved. Man. Vampires all over the place.
So thank you for sharing. I think that's a great crescendo for the show.
Not a problem, brother. Well, listen, Tiny, that's all we have time for tonight. We'd like to thank everyone for listening. If you have a story or you want to be a guest, please contact us at Cryptid and Paranormal at gmail.com, or you can get us at 828-407-0046. Again, that is American Cryptid and Paranormal Society at gmail.com. Tiny, you have anything to say before we head on out?
Well, if you'd like to get me directly, that's Hurst, Hurst Paranormal and Cryptid at gmail.com, or on Facebook. You can message me there. Again, Hurst Paranormal and Cryptid.
And all of our contact information is, of course, in the liner notes. I am the Cryptid Guy. Tiny and I thank you for listening. And remember, my friends, knowledge is power. And the only way to defeat the intentional veil of darkness that surrounds us all, battle the ignorance that shackled us to hatred and despair, and restore the balance, is to let in the light. So remember, always, let there be light in your life and keep believing. Have a great night. Until next time, thank you for listening.